Chapter 16. Ariana POV.
Welcome back, King Alistair.
A man with a stunning white hair and piercing gold eyes said, walking to us with a smile.
Vicus.
Alistair shouted as they happily hugged and greeted themselves.
Vicus, this is my family. My son, Noah, and my,
He stopped there and looked at me with confusion and sadness. I'm Ariana. My relation with him is, well, complicated. But we will see in the future, I said, scratching the back of my neck, as I heard Alistair give a displeased sigh.
I am Vicus, and I am the Viceroy General of King Alistair. Nice to meet you both. The whole terrain is excited to meet both the Queen and the Prince.
Vicus said as I smiled. The whole terrain? I asked, shocked as I turned to look at Alistair.
You are the Queen, Arya. People should know about your presence.
Alistair said as I raised my eyebrow. I didn't agree to be the queen. It's not a simple thing being called a queen. I'm not fit for being a ruler or anything. I barely can take care of myself or Noah, I said as I felt myself panic.
Arya, breathe. I know you can do it. I am not saying you to take the throne immediately. After you feel comfortable with everything, only will I hold the ceremony.
Alistair said as he took my hand.
Yes, my queen. We will officially declare you queen only when you are ready. But we should introduce you to our people. With the war going on, everything is in a tense situation. Not having a queen during this time is really like a curse for us. When they know that a queen is here to hold onto them together, they will be relieved. Please, just for the people here.
Vicus said as I looked at him, conflicted.
Please, Arya.
Alistair said as I looked at him. His icy blue eyes looked at me in hope, and I couldn't even think of letting him down. Okay, I whispered as his lips turned to a smile.
Vicus's wife, Hela, will help and lead you in the royal duties.
Alistair said as I gulped. Royal duties? I asked as he smiled at me.
Don't worry, she will first teach you the simple duties. Till then, we will manage the work as of before.
Alistair said, kissing my forehead. I blushed as my son giggled. I looked down at him and gave a playful glare before laughing with him.
Go and eat something. I know you both must be so hungry.
Alistair said as both Noah and I nodded, both of us hungry as hell. What about you? I asked Alistair.
I have some work stacked up for my absence. Vicus will guide you both. After food, he will show you both the room. The gown for the introduction ceremony will be arranged, and after you are ready, we will meet you in the courtroom.
He said as I nodded. He then smiled and bowed down at me and kissed Noah's forehead before walking off in the opposite direction.
Shall we go?
Vicus asked as I nodded. I looked around in wow as we entered the palace. It was beautiful with the architecture and the place was lively. Some people were chatting and having their time while others were running around with tension. All of them looked so royal and defiantly like people who possess magic with all the designer clothes and coats and weird hats.
They are the royal dukes and noble wizards of the terrain. They live in the castle and are trained in various posts and position.
Vicus said as I nodded and looked around. As we walked past, everyone was bowing and greeting Vicus in respect, but they were also looking at me and my son in confusion. Hell, I even saw some looking at me in disgust.
Hela, is the food ready?
Vicus asked as we entered the kitchen. Almost ready! I heard a female voice shout from the other end of the huge kitchen.
Is it okay to eat in the kitchen, or should I arrange the dining room?
Vicus asked as I smiled and shook my head. The kitchen table is enough, I said, as he nodded and smiled.
Alistair oddly likes the kitchen table as well, probably because he can freely eat unlike in front of the other nobles.
He said as I laughed. Vicus then led me to the table. Once I set Noah on the chair, I sat next to him. Hello, Your Majesty. My name is Hela. I will be your noble lady. A woman in red hair said as she walked to me. Saying she was beautiful was an understatement. Her very pale skin was filled with freckles, all beautiful, and she had mesmerizing forest green eyes. She wore a red dress and boots. She had a beautiful leaf-carved headdress, and in between her eyebrows was drawn a pattern of green and white. I gape and look at her beauty as she returned a look of confusion. Your Majesty? She called as I looked at her, humming. Oh, yes. Please, call me Arya. No, Majesty, I said as she nodded. Okay, Arya. I didn't know what you would like to eat, so I made a few I think is the best, she said as I nodded.
Hela will take care of you, Arya. I will have to take my leave and join Alistair.
Vicus said as I nodded.
I will take my leave, Prince Noah.
He said, smiling at my son, who waved and said bye. Tell the kids to come here as well. They haven't eaten anything since morning, Hela said as he nodded and went out. Shall I bring the food, Arya? She asked as I nodded. She waved her hand as both Noah and I grasped as plates of food appeared in front of us. The plates and cups from the cupboard flew in the air and arranged itself in front of us. That was awesome, Noah said as I clapped with him. Thank you, she said, doing a little bow and waving in the air. Suddenly, the door opens and 2 children came running in. Mother, we're hungry, the elder girl said as the younger boy nodded. Well, let's fill this stomach then, shall we? She said as both of them grinned and ran to the empty chair in front of us. They looked at me and then at Noah, frowning. Do you know who they are? Hela asked as they both shook their head, confused. This is our queen, Arya, and our prince, Noah, she said as they looked at us with wide eyes. Hi, Noah said as he shyly waved at the two children. Hi, the elder girl said. This is Violet and Luca, my children, Hayla said as I smiled at them. Nice to meet you too, the boy said excitedly. It's an honor to meet you, Queen, and you too, Prince, the elder said as I looked at her in shock. That's my girl, Hayla said as she looked at me and smiled. Violet is training to take father's place as the viceroy. In other sense, Noah's right hand, he said as I nodded and looked at her. She looked about 9 years old, but her talking was too matured for one. Somehow I feel pity for her. What if my son turns like this instead of enjoying his childhood? We did not force her into this, is that's what you are wondering. She has her happy times, but she also knows when to become serious. She chooses the moment actions. She always dreams of being a viceroy like her father. Isn't that right? She said as she pinched her daughter's nose. After that, we all ate food, enjoying each other's company. See this, Violet said as she waved her hands in the air. A small green magical image of a 3D bird started flying in the air. It flew around everyone and sat on Noah's head. This is so cool, Noah whisper shouted, making sure not to scare it away. Well, soon you will be able to do it, little prince, Hayla said as she touched her finger on his nose. He giggles and wiped his nose before grinning widely. He turned to me and smiled as I smiled back, genuinely happy for him. Chapter 17. Ariana, POV. Do I always have to wear this? I asked, as I miserably tried to adjust the beautiful yet big headdress. Fortunately, you don't. Just big functions like this, Hayla said, as she came and adjusted my headdress once again. It was a gold headdress, with beautifully arranged with gems and beads. It is very big and heavy, though. It's kind of a traditional queen dress, she said, as she finished drawing a blue diamond on my forehead. Wow, I look unrecognizable with the overhead accessories, I said, looking at the mirror. The dress was just a simple, dark blue made of satin. I only have a simple necklace and a bead earring as accessories. All I consider as a huge toll was the big-ass headdress, which is starting to give me a backache. All done. Now please excuse me, Arya. I need to go change myself, she said, as I nodded. After she went away, I sighed and sat on the bed, slowly making sure the thing in my head don't fall down. Mommy! I heard Noah call as the door slammed shut. Whoa! He said as he froze looking at me. I raised one of my eyebrows as he stared at me. What is that on your head, Mommy? He asked as he walked slowly to me. It's something I must wear for the ceremony. Do I look good in it? I asked as he nodded. Yeah, you look good. But it also looks weird because it is so huge, he said as he widens his hands on both sides. I laughed and patted the space next to me. Without even wasting a moment, ran to me, laughing. He climbed to the bed and sat next to me as he ran his hand down my satin dress. Don't you look handsome and princey, I said, as he looked up at me and smiled. Thank you. Even the lady who dressed me up said I look like a prince, he said, giggling. He was wearing a white full-sleeve shirt with a blue vest and a belt on top of it. The pant was black, and he had the gloves his father brought him. A knocking echoed on our door, and I walked my way and opened the door. Yes? I asked. I faced a man, probably a soldier, with his look.
His Majesty has asked for your presence,
he said, as I nodded and called my son before following him. After walking for almost 10 minutes, and still we are inside the palace, we reached large wooden gate designed with gold. The door opened, and I looked around in wow as I tried to take in the beautiful room. The ground was fully red carpeted. The walls were white, designed with gold lining. The top was a tomb, also white, with gold designs. The guards here wore white uniforms, and there were red, huge single sofa on both sides of the room. At the end on top of a raised platform were 3 seats, and middle one was occupied by Alistair. As soon as he saw us, he stood up, smiling. Noah, on seeing his father, ran to him and jumped as Alistair picked him up. Hey, I said, as he smiled and bowed.
Welcome to the courtroom. This is your chair, Arya. Once you accept the crown of queen, this will be your position, next to me.
He said, as he pointed to the seat on the right.
And this seat is for you, my blood heir.
He said, as he showed Noah the seat to the left. I get my own chair? Cool, Noah said, excited.
Are you both ready? They all are waiting.
He said, as I gulped.
Don't worry. Since you are not ready to present, only the nobles will be here. The rest of the people will see you via the vision.
He said, as I nodded. I don't know what a vision is, but seeing the situation, I think it's like a broadcast.
Ready, Noah?
He asked his son. Ready, he said, as he showed a thumb up. Alistair kissed our forehead and smiled as I blushed. He then walked down the raised platform and to the balcony in the right side.
People of Obsidian Terrain.
He started to say loud. A big applause filled the air, followed by praises to the king.
We all know of the war, but the Dark Wizards are still going strong. I know we all have been stressed about it. And I know you all are even tensed without a queen.
He said, as whispers arose from the ground. I slowly walked to the balcony and stretched my neck, trying to see the people on the ground. My eyes widened as I saw a large ground, probably around 100. All these are only nobles? How many more are watching this?
Quiet.
He shouted as the whispers died down.
I have called you all here for a special occasion. You all know about my trip to Earth, and I know the rumor about me falling in love with a human has spread far and wide. I am here to confirm to you that it is indeed true. I have fallen in love with a human. For 5 years, I was separated from her because of the council, and now I have got her back. And she has also gifted me by giving me a son, the next heir to the throne.
He said as grasps and more whispers filled the air.
How can a human take the place of a queen? She is powerless and incapable of protecting. She is weak to be a queen.
One of the people in the crowd voiced. The next thing I saw was a man flying in the air, grasping and struggling.
Do not speak of her like that. She is in every way fit for being a queen. Do you doubt the decisions of the king?
Alistair asked as he raised his arm in the air.
No, no, please, please.
The man pleaded as he tried hard to breathe. I watched as Vicus shook his head as Alistair sighed before glaring at the man.
Good.
Alistair said before releasing the man.
She will not acquire the position because she herself is reluctant until ready. She will look into the village activities and duties as a queen, but the administrator part will be done by the Lady Viceroy till she is ready. Now, without further delay,
He said, as my heart started to beat fast.
let me call upon your future queen and the next heir to Obsidian Terrain, Ariana Sue Davis and Noah Milo Davis.
He shouted as I gulped and walked forward.